pero ni de paneles yours.
Boy.
Calling to order this Police Accountability Board special meeting at Tuesday, November 15, 2022. Public advisory for this meeting will be conducted exclusively through video conference and teleconference. Pursuant to Government Code Section 54953E and the state declared emergency, this meeting will be conducted exclusively through teleconference and Zoom video conference. The COVID-19 state of emergency continues to directly impact the ability of members to meet safely in person and presents imminent risk to the health of the attendees. Therefore, no physical meeting location will be available. To access the meeting remotely, join from a PC, Mac, iPad, iPhone, or Android device using this URL. If you do not wish your name to appear on the screen, use the drop-down menu, click on Rename to rename yourself to be anonymous. To request to speak, use the raised hand icon on the screen. To join by phone, dial 1-669-900-6833 and enter meeting ID 822-3790-2987. If you wish to comment during the public comment portion of the agenda, press *9 and wait to be recognized. The City of Berkeley land acknowledgement. The City of Berkeley recognizes that the community we live in was built on the territory of the Hushun, ancestral unceded land of the Chochenyo, speaking Ohlone people, and the ancestors and descendants of the sovereign Verona Band of Alameda County. This land was and continues to be of great importance to all the Ohlone tribes and descendants of the Verona Band. As we begin our meeting today, we acknowledge and honor the original inhabitants of Berkeley, the documented 5,000-year history of a vibrant community at the West Berkeley Shell Mound, and the Ohlone people who continue to reside in the East Bay. We recognize that Berkeley's residents have and continue to benefit from the use and occupation of this unceded stolen land since the City of Berkeley's incorporation in 1878. As stewards of the laws regulating the City of Berkeley, it's not only vital that we recognize the history of this land, but also recognize the Ohlone people are present, members of Berkeley and other East Bay communities today. Okay, great. If we can acknowledge who's here. Real quick, thank you. So call to order with the roll call, please.
You're muted.
Okay, do you want me to go through the list?
Yes, please.
Okay, great. So Kitty Calavita.
Here.
Regina Harris. Juliet Leftwich.
Here.
Deborah Levine.
Here.
Nathan Mizell.
Here.
John Moore.
Here.
Cheryl Owens.
Here.
Ismail Ramsey.
I'm here, but Mr. Chair, I did want to let you know that I have to leave at 3:30. I teach a class at Berkeley Law today, so I'll have to.
I totally understand. I'm catching a flight and have to leave at 3:30 myself.
Thanks.
We're on the same page here. Thank you.
And then
Excellent. Do we have anyone from the city here? From Berkeley Police Department, from the City Attorney's Office? I just want to acknowledge that they're present, if so.
the city attorney, Farima, said that she would try to arrive by 2:30.
I'm glad she's trying to make it. That's great. Excellent. Okay, so that brings us to agenda item number 2, the approval of the agenda. Would any board member like to comment?
I move we approve the agenda.
All right, and if we can approve by consent, if there's any objections, please make them known now. If not, we'll move to agenda item number 3.
Does anyone have to second that?
The director raised his hand, I was just going to say.
Okay.
Okay, Director, please.
Okay, no, I just wanted you to be mindful if 2 of you were leaving, just in terms of quorum, if we're usually gonna still have quorum by 2:30, but I believe you will, so I'll go ahead and disregard that.
Thank you, Director.
Who
Okay.
seconded the motion to approve the agenda? Just wanted to do that.
I did not hear a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Moving to public comment. I see there's 8 attendees with raised hands.
I have a point of order.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I think it seems like we're gonna have more than 10 people speak, and I think then in that situation, comments are limited to 1 minute, I believe.
That is correct.
Thanks.
I'll make a motion to give folks 2 minutes on public comment, even if it's over 10.
Is there a second?
Could we compromise and say under 12 gets 2 minutes, over 12 gets 1 minute?
We're over.
I mean, we have, looks like 11 hands, so I'm like, we're very close to the number.
Oh.
I think
Or
the hands
12
will
now.
continue to go up, so I would prefer to stick with the 1 minute as Board Member Ramsey noted.
Okay, if I don't have a second, I don't have a second.
Excellent. All right. Okay, can we start with,
Can I ask who's gonna be keeping time? I'm happy to do it if you need someone.
I do have a timer here, but I can't put it on the screen, but. All right. So. Are you? Oops.
Would you
Okay,
would you like me to put it on the screen, Mr. Chair?
please, and Miss Investigator Thomas, do we have are we ready to let people speak?
Right, yeah.
Great.
1 second.
Um, Director Aguilar, are you taking the lead on that?
yes, so I'll go
Okay.
ahead and allow the first speaker on with the Police Advisory Board will be Kelly Hammergreen. I'm going to allow you to talk now, 1 minute with the board.
I'm just waiting to hear what everyone else has to say. And can you please activate the live transcription that's normally activated during a meeting and it isn't turned on? That's a disability access issue. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
And
you, ma'am.
that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Okay. The next speaker on with the board will be Russ.
Hi, everybody. 1 minute gives me enough time to sound almost incoherent. But the point is here that quotas for the Berkeley Police. I used to live in Chicago where quotas were an everyday thing. And at the end of the month, you learn to be very, very careful on the street because they had to make their quotas. If in fact this is verified and true about the Berkeley Police, I would not doubt it, but it still needs to be verified. Something that needs to be done. The police union is like the police onion, like the so-called news website, The Onion. Disinformation, lies, balderdash, with a Berkeley scanner called the Berkeley Scammer, also publicly supporting everything the police do. It needs to be investigated. It needs to be stopped. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. We're moving on to Nicole. You're on with the advisory board.
Hello, hopefully you can hear me. I was also going to request the reasonable accommodation of closed captions. So thank you, and reminder to do that at the beginning of every meeting. And also I do support the PAB's investigation for the community interests. I myself was a City of Berkeley employee in a very simple role as a librarian. And when there were accusations made of me, I was completely removed from my office and removed from my pay. until the investigation was allowed to proceed. So I would expect the same from any other City of Berkeley employee or representative. I support your investigation.
Thank you. We're moving on to CHN host. You're on with the board.
Sorry, it's been some time. I'm going to need some extra time because of my seat difference. I'm going to request that the PAV do a full investigation as someone who was on the committee to recruit a new police chief. I find this very unsettling, not transparent, and we as community members need to know the full scope of what is transpired. And the interim, if she is to be selected, can wait. We don't have to confirm her tonight. So I asked that he be to do his job, fully investigate what has gone on with this incident of quotas and harassing allegedly the homeless. Thank you.
Thank you. Jonah, you're up next. You're available to speak now.
Thank you. My name is Jonah. I'm a Berkeley resident and a student at UC Berkeley. I'm just calling in today to just express not my shock at what was alleged in these leaked texts, because I know that many of us have long suspected that despite Berkeley's progressive reputation, this type of racist, anti-Black, and anti-homeless behavior and these illegal arrest quotas existed within the city. But just the disrespect of the city manager and the city council attempting to still force through this confirmation of the police chief, who may or may not have known that this was going on, is really shocking, especially given the fact that this police accountability board has been given the jurisdiction to do exactly this and investigate. So I push for a full investigation and the board to use its subpoena powers to investigate. Thank you.
Okay, Rains, you're up next. You're on with the PAV.
Thank you. I'm Betsy Morris. I'm wasn't able to change in time. Now I can see my name to change. But anyway, I'm here today. I'm a 30-year resident of District 1 in West Berkeley. And I'm here today both as a member of the Friends of Adeline community group, and more particularly, I am convener of the Berkeley East Bay Gray Panthers. And speaking in both capacities, we absolutely support the work and the right of the Berkeley Police Accountability Board to take action on the issues before you today, to do investigations with diligence. I want to thank you all for serving, and I want to thank you for this important work that you're doing. I want to just say we supported the Measure III, and both Friends of Adeline and Gray Panthers supported that campaign and have stayed part of the coalition that continues to support who you are, what you're doing, and the necessity for this kind of independence review that I support your efforts to bring
Ms. Morris,
forward.
your time is up, ma'am. Thank you. George Lippman, you're up next.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. I have a few concrete suggestions. one is support for PAB using its subpoena power. In the past, I don't think that the department and the city management has been that responsive. But now it's time to get all the information that you can get from an official source. Secondly, definitely support a DPA or PAB full investigation without
Next
fear.
door.
Yeah. And that you call on the city council to hold off on the appointment and until we understand, because the interim chief has been flagged as being overseeing this issue. And then finally, these are criminal acts. There's a law in California against the quota for arrest. That should be referred to the DA's office for prosecution. Thank you.
Thank you. Moni Law, you're up next. Okay, you're on with the advisory board.
Good afternoon. My name is Moni Law. I'm a Cal alum. I'm also a city employee on my lunch break and a city resident. And I'm proud to be the chair of the Berkeley Community Safety Coalition. I'm also named in the case of Law versus City of Berkeley, dated in 2016 in federal court, that dealt with excessive force with hopeful changes to occur. I do encourage you to look at the video and other documents that I forwarded to your august group, and I appreciate your service. Prudent decision-making does require transparency and accountability. And in the BPD, we must ensure that the officers that are individually involved and also management or supervision persons who are in the chain of supervision are also held accountable. Finally, the PAB subpoena is a powerful document, and I thank Vice Chair Menzel on his personal time to take the PRA request through the city. That may or may not get results. Do defer to independent investigators as well to assist you in your inquiry for truth. Thank you for truth and justice.
Thank you. Mark Stanton, you're on next. Okay, you're on with the board.
Okay, great, thank you. This speaks to a larger issue. I fully support you going ahead and doing an investigation. Seems to me the larger issue is, we have a police force in Berkeley that seems to pay lip service to change, that would like to see things happen, they say, and then really just goes along to get along. Ultimately, a lot of that stops at management. We need a chief that is actually proactively interested in change. None of the things that we're going to do or trying to do in Berkeley that a lot of really dedicated, committed people, both inside and outside government, are trying to do, the PAB, the SCU, reimagining on all the different levels, none of that works unless we have a department that has some willingness to buy into it. So I urge everybody to keep that foremost in their minds when they're thinking about what kind of leadership we want in the police force, and ultimately what kind of leadership we want at City Hall. Commitment to progressive Berkeley values. Thank you.
Thank you. Soli Alpert, you're on next.
Good afternoon, commissioners and director. This is Solly Alpert, vice chair of the Rent Stabilization Board, speaking in my individual capacity. Apologies for any background noise. I'm at the strike for our graduate student workers or academic workers. As another commenter said, I am shocked but not surprised by these the contents of these texts. There is clearly a deep rot of racism within our police department, and as we know, the fish rots from the head down. These were not just from any officer; these were from someone who is issuing orders, and also the president of the police union. And also shocking was, though not surprising, was that the city manager's initial instinct response, mere hours after, even if even hours after the email was sent to council, was to say, "I've quote unquote investigated, Jen is fine, we should move on with her appointment." That is scandalous. That clearly demonstrates a complete lack of interest in actually pursuing justice, accountability, and transparency. The people of Berkeley overwhelmingly passed a charter amendment to enshrine in this body the power to investigate. And what that they were promised was transparency, accountability, and access for this body.
Slowly,
And so I
your time is
appreciate
up.
Commissioner, thank you. I appreciate Commissioner Mizell, and I urge you to go as aggressively as possible.
Thank you. Mickey Duxbury, you're up next. You're on with the board.
Hi, thank you. First, I do want to say thank you for everything you all do and are doing. I was not aware of this at all until I got an email with this tweet. So I'm very appreciative of that. I support an investigation. I too recognize that this is just the tip of the iceberg. This was something that was discovered, but there's many other things that are not discovered. I would support the Police Accountability Board to put more information to the media about this, because I'm sure there's many residents of Berkeley. I'm a 35-year resident in Central Berkeley that would be very interested in applying some pressure and letters to the appropriate people about this if they knew a little more about it. Of course, I support holding off the appointment until it's thoroughly investigated. And I agree with the last speaker and previous speaker totally that if we don't have a chief that's really genuinely invested in change, this will all be lip service and we'll be in the same place 4 years from now that we were. And thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Can I just make one quick note to whoever's the host? If you click on participants and bring up a dialogue box, the same box where you can enable a talker, you can disable them talking, and you can also lower their hand, and that may keep track of the panelist box for us, so they're not overloaded.
Is anybody else still seeing all of the speakers on the screen? Can that
Yes,
be?
that's what I was trying to adjust.
Okay.
Address. If you that same dialogue box that allows you to enable someone to talk, if you click on the person's name, right click, you can disable their ability to talk and you can lower their hand, and then that will fix our issue right now with everyone on this panelist.
Okay, is that removing it or?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. Okay, I'll allow the next speaker, Edward Stress. You on with the council, with the advisory board?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. I'm appalled at this, of course. What do we stand for? I don't know. This is a big surprise. I've heard of it. I'm not quite sure what's going on, but it smells terrible. And I really wish we would take due diligence in making sure that we don't have a racist police force. God, how much do we have to insist that we are Berkeley? I don't. It's just very disturbing. I've lived here since 76, and I've been seen a lot, but it's just incredible. Just please fix it. Let's fix it and go on. We're nice to people here. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Cecilia, you're on next.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Cecilia Luna Parra, the president of Cal Berkeley Democrats, and on behalf of the club and concerned students at large, we are outraged, although unsurprised, at the alleged misconduct released yesterday. Therefore, we support the Police Accountability Board's jurisdiction to fully and independently investigate these allegations. We call on the City Council to indefinitely delay the confirmation of Interim Police Chief Lewis. I am deeply disturbed by the police department and city manager's attempt to rush this confirmation and prevent the public from knowing. This is a direct attack on public accountability and transparency and only reinforces the racism, classism, anti-homelessness, and abuse we all already knew is deeply embedded in BPD. We encourage the PAB to use their subpoena power to investigate all and act aggressively. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Cecilia. Alicia, you're on next.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alicia Harger. I'm a lifelong Berkeley resident. I also was on the Reimagining Public Safety Task Force. I'd like to echo what has been said by pretty much all the previous commenters. This is not surprising, but it is absolutely outrageous. And I fully support y'all to engage in a robust investigation. I'd also like to second the commenter who said that the fish rots from the head, because clearly the union is mixed up in all of this. And I think that the Berkeley Police Union is truly a menace to the Berkeley community. I don't know what y'all's capacity is in terms of engaging with the union, but if that is something that you can do, I would strongly, strongly urge it. I also would like to urge y'all to find a very strong replacement for Nathan Mizell, because clearly this is a very important moment for police accountability in this city, and we need to make sure that at every level we are prepared to fight against the city council and the city manager if they try to appoint Jen Lewis or stymie this investigation in any way. Thank you all for your work.
Edward Stress, you're on next. You're on with the board? No? Sorry. Paola, you're on next.
Hello there. Thank you. Paola Laverde here. I'm an outgoing Ramport commissioner, and I'm talking on my lunch break because I'm a state employee. I am calling to, yes, echo everything what everybody has said. I do support the board using its subpoena power to get to the bottom of this. I support that holding off the appointment of the chief. What I found most, and I was not surprised at all by reading those texts, not surprised at all. But the one that really caught me was that the open door policy of just, letting the officers do as much overtime as they want. The Berkeley Square, the Center Square article that Mr. Stanton shared said that 14 cops made more than $300,000 a year in 2021. And one of them is a sergeant. I'm curious if this is the same sergeant who is also the president of the police union. Keeping these costs, this is a cost to the public, to homeowners, to people who pay taxes. And there is an expectation that departments are going to be run appropriately and within budget. And of course, we know that this isn't being done. So I also would request that you guys really look into this just laissez-faire attitude about how much money people, or how much money the department can spend. Thank you for your time. Thank you so much for your hard work.
Thank you. Sam Greenberg, you're on next with the board.
Good afternoon, commissioners. I'm Sam Greenberg. I'm speaking on behalf of Telegraph for People in strong support of your investigation and in complete disgust at what's been revealed in these texts. So we're a transportation advocacy organization. We fight for safe streets in the city, but we recognize that safety is not going to come from racist police officers engaging in illegal arrest quotas and racial profiling. It's going to come from engineering and design. So we're here, in strong support of your investigation and call on the city council to delay the appointment of the new police chief, who should not be blindly confirmed before the public is able to have crucial information about whether they concealed just crucial information that threaten public safety. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Kit, you're on next.
Thank you. I'll try not to repeat things that have already been said. What I want to ask of the board is that you keep clear for the public who's following your actions, the different threads that you're going to be pursuing. Are you going to be doing a policy review? And of course, that's a different animal from review of misconduct. Of course, as you all know, but the public may not be aware, the interim rules state that you can only look into police misconduct in response to a complaint from a person who was involved, who was there or was a precipient witness. I don't know if that's what you're going to do. And of course, there's also the alleged illegal activity, which would be pursued in a court of law, I think. But just for the sake of the public understanding where things are going, I hope you'll be extra clear in your communications about how you're pursuing all the things that you're going to be pursuing on this. And thank you so very much for your work.
Thank you. Jessica, you're on with the board.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, good afternoon. So I'm calling because I just wanted to assert that these are not allegations, but there's actually anti-homeless sentiment in the police department. I'm actually an unhoused resident and I reside in District 1. I've been living in Myra for 5 years, and I've actually witnessed multiple times where like police officers actually intimidate unhoused residents to give up their items so they get arrested. And they have also gotten arrested multiple times, sometimes even without charges. Last time there was a big sweep in our community, it was on October 4th. There were 17 police officers that were used to basically intimidate people to give up their belongings. And they showed up at 6 in the morning and they stay all the way until like 6 p.m. So this was like a 12-hour operation. And this is where they're getting their overtime to basically just provide security to city staff and intimidate residents to give up their property. So I just feel like there has to be a really deep investigation by looking at body cam footage of how they're actually operating in this kind of cleanings and operations. And I will request that you would subpoena for this body cam footage that occurred on October 4, because this is really an overuse of police force. Thank you.
Thank you. Glenn Turner, you're up next. You're on with the board.
Okay. Yes, I'm a over 40-year resident of Berkeley, and thank you, Jessica, for pointing out there's a tremendous overuse of police cars. I've often seen 2 and 3 police cars all gathering together, what seem it's situations that obviously don't need that many police. And I think the Police Accountability Board is a shining light for actual progress being made in Berkeley to get rid of this very conservative city council and also the city manager. And if this review board can, make a difference, I applaud you and support you wholeheartedly. Thank you.
Thank you. Mansoor, you're up next. You're on with the board.
Thank you. I just want to say that thank God for the PAB. We've been working for many years to try to eliminate disparate policing in Berkeley. And this information here just shine a light on all the concerns that we've had in the past. And I just want to thank you for the work you're doing as a board. But we need a comprehensive investigation in this case. And hopefully that you'll be able to provide that level of investigation and not impaired by the city or the council in your work. We will be watching, and hopefully we'll get to the bottom of this. And there's no way we can have a new police chief under this kind of atmosphere. Hopefully, we want someone to come in, the new police chief to come in, someone that we can trust. And under these circumstances, we cannot trust the present situation. So hopefully that the city council will vote to sustain at this point until this investigation is over. But thank you for your work very much.
Thank you. Mike Chang, you're up next. You're on with the board.
Hi, thank you. Hi there. Thank you so much. This is Mike Chang. I'm the former chair of the Police Accountability Board. Number one, I want to thank everybody for their continuing energy and focus on transparent policing in the city of Berkeley. This is a really critical test of the scope and jurisdiction of PAB. Whether we call it a directed investigation or investigation initiated by the director, the manner in which Police Accountability Board proceeds with this investigation is going to set a template in the future for the authority of PAB to investigate what is a clear violation of procedures, and also, as one person noted, potentially law. So I would support you in doing so, and just encourage you to continue doing your great work. And I'll be watching from the sidelines and cheering you on. Thank you.
Thank you. Chrissy, you're up next.
Hi, my name is Chrissy Hoffman. I'm in District 8, and a couple of things. The first thing is that money, whoever brought up the salary for the police that some of them are making, that's shocking, considering that the Mobile Crisis Center is only open, is closed Tuesdays and Saturdays. They're not 24 hours a day. That sweep that happened that took 12 hours, we wouldn't need to pay all those police officers if we could pay enough homeless mobile crisis outreach people to help those people get to services and get what they need. So I'm really pretty disgusted with that. The city manager, who said they don't think this person, that the Police Chief Lewis knew about what was going on, and so we should just hire this person. I'm pretty outraged that I'm helping pay for this person to be employed, if that's how they look at a situation like this. So I would really like to say that. And if the police chief didn't know what was going on, well, that police chief person, Lewis, is the person in charge. And they need to know that. They need to be aware of what's going on underneath them and take responsibility. Thank you so much.
All right, that was the last speaker, Chair Moore.
Mr. Chair, can I just, you were muted, but it just also just note that the city attorney appears to be on as a participant, Farima Brown, and perhaps she could be elevated to panelist.
Thank you, Board Member Ramsey. Can we please do that, Investigator Thomas?
It was done, sir.
Excellent. All right. So this brings us to agenda item number 4. I'd like to open this up discussion to the board. And with that, I'd like to say a few things before we get this conversation started. You know, when these allegations came in front of us, and that was last Thursday, there was beyond disturbing. It was beyond concerning for me. I wanted to make sure that this board was prepared to take on the task of real oversight, real law enforcement oversight, demanding transparency and accountability. But before we can do that, we have to vet the allegations before us. As an investigative body, we can't run to any judgment. We want to be fair and impartial. And because of that, I've set out these agenda items. So if we could open it up after that, that'd be great. That's all I have to say.
Chair, how do you want to proceed?
Well, Vice Chair, I would like to go ahead and have a discussion, probably give everyone 2 minutes to go ahead and give their thoughts on this and see if we can come up with a motion or consensus of the board. If that's, if that's comfortable with everyone, that's how I'd like to proceed, but I'm open. I'd like to be efficient. I'd like us to get through this as quickly as possible. We have several special meetings coming up, and I feel like we're going to have to work on this continually as this unfolds. Vice Chair Mizell, would you like to add something, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. And yes, I also first learned of these allegations on Thursday. Obviously the content of the allegations is quite disturbing, as has been said. I think, quite obviously, in terms of what the text of these allegations are, there's obvious racism, there's obvious classism, there's obvious anti-homeless remarks, and the remarks which, potentially lend itself to illegal police practices and tactics, all of which are things that are very much under the purview of this board to investigate. I again, with the time and with the many things we have to consider, I won't go on and on about it. I think, as someone who's worked now for years to try to change, these dynamics within the department through whether it was the mayor's task force, whether it's reimagining and thinking differently about how we do public safety, are all the community members who have spent, a decade now really focused on issues around racial disparity, stops and searches, and how policing functions. The only way at this point I see for us to proceed in the way that can instill and keep public trust is for us to conduct this investigation. It's for us to recommend to the council that they delay the confirmation of the interim chief. And again, I will be honest, right? The interim chief and I have not been best friends, but this is not about us. As I've said many times, it's not about me. It's not about the interim chief, Lewis. It's about how this system is supposed to work. It's about whether fair and impartial investigations, independent investigations are going to matter in this city, and whether they'll have any influence at all on the actual policies and practices of the department. I think very clearly, if we're investigating, the point is for it to have some impact on the decisions that get made. Ultimately, of course, council is the final decision maker in this city. We all understand that and respect that, but we have a role as well. I think we need to carry it out. I think we need to today approve a subpoena, at least for the records and documents and videos potentially involved in these allegations. And I think we do need to vote to recommend to council that they pause the confirmation process while we do our due diligence, do a full investigation, and just get the facts. If the facts are the chief did not know, the council can make a decision. If the facts are different, the council can also make a decision. I just think it should be at a time where the public can have confidence in the full process, and we can proceed in a way that's consistent with really the will of the voters, the overwhelming will of the voters in this city. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any comment, concerns?
Ah. Oh, God.
Board Member Calvino, were you?
Yes, I'm trying to raise my hand, but it did the opposite.
No way.
Yes, I would absolutely support an action that would be the chair and vice chair sending a letter to council recommending that the final confirmation of interim chief Lewis be postponed until a full and independent investigation can take place, making clear that these facts haven't been vetted. They're allegations at this point, so we're not assuming anything, but the facts need to be uncovered through a full investigation. So that's number one, my sense. Number two, my sense is that the PA, this seems to me exactly the kind of responsibility that an oversight board such as us needs to take on. I think none of us are particularly looking forward to such a heavy lift, but we are the Police Accountability Board. The details of that investigation need to be further discussed. Third, very quickly, I want to say that for years now, the Mayor's Working Group on Fair and Impartial Policing, and subsequently the Fair and Impartial Policing Implementation Subcommittee of the PAB, has been urging an effective early warning system, which would not only identify individual officers, but would identify patterns within various units, if they exist, could identify potential patterns within units, divisions, beats, shifts, and so forth of the police department. Had the advice of the PAB to collaborate with the department to create such an effective early warning system, some of this might have been stopped earlier. Just saying, in the future, I hope that people will listen about the importance of an early warning system that identifies patterns of disparate stops, searches, and arrests.
Thank you, Board Member Calvino. Anyone else? Board Member Levine.
Thank you. Well, I would just cite to
the city manager's email, who herself characterized this announcement or information as very disturbing. She said that the council received a very disturbing email, and further that she would assure everybody that these allegations will be fully investigated. So I don't think there's any question that that needs to happen. I also don't think that there's any question that the people who are being pointed to wouldn't do the investigation. And I think it's pretty clear that we're the oversight body that would do this. Whether we do it as in one manner or the next requires further discussion. I think it's premature to issue subpoenas until we have that discussion and outline the appropriate manner of investigation. But I think at this point, all we need to do is essentially endorse what Board Member Calavita suggested, which is postponing the confirmation of the permanent director. And it's not asking for suspension. It's not asking for employment termination or non-working. It's just postponing the confirmation until the investigation. So that's what I would suggest as a clear mandate here, and do it through the manner that Board Member Calavita suggested, through a letter from the chair. So if a motion's needed, I would make that motion to issue.
Board Member Levine, before you make a motion, let me give you an update on information, just so you're clear. The city manager has said that she wants to hire independent outside investigators to do the oversight of this. So hold on one second, Board Member Ramsey, I'll get you.
No problem. I'm in line. I'm in the queue. I understand. Thanks.
But because of that, and because of that statement that she's put out to the press, I want to make sure that this board does not lose its power to do what we have been allocated and empowered by the charter. So that I just want to make sure you knew that.
Let me clarify that. If I didn't make it clear, I think we clearly have the obligation and duty as the civilian oversight body to investigate this. How it comes in, we have a specific complaint here from some citizens who've cited to an October 4th event that seems to connect with this description of conduct that is concerning. But that's not really the issue here. The issue is whether we, as a board, send a letter advocating that the city council postpone the confirmation of the police chief. Not that we're taking any position on the allegations whatsoever. Simply postpone the confirmation.
Thank you. Board Member Owens.
Yes, I'd like to say I agree with the other board members. I think we should recommend to the council that there be a postponement of these police chiefs appointment. I also think that the charter makes it very clear that we're the oversight board for the police department, and I do believe that this board should do some sort of investigation into this conduct. But I also think that this board should also, in their letter to the council, also strongly support a third-party investigation as well. And the reason why I say that is we have oversight over the police department. And we have no idea if anyone else in the city was aware of this behavior. And we have no oversight over that, over those potential people. So I think that we as a board should also support a third-party investigation, because that investigation can be a little more broader than our body. Our body can focus on the police department because that's what our oversight is for. But I think there should be a broad investigation. And I also would like to recommend that the mayor and the council have the oversight over that third party investigation. Because as we saw with the letter from the city manager, you know, she was ready to just kind of say, okay, let's just move on. We think this is all good. So honestly, I would prefer that that third party investigation is managed and the oversight is done by the mayor and the council instead of some city employee, including the city manager. So those are the things I recommend, that we do our investigation, that we support a third party investigation so the investigation can be broader. And also that we recommend that there's a postponement of the police chief appointment. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Owens. Board Member Ramsey.
Thanks. A couple of things. It seems like we have two issues we're dealing with. One, whether to recommend a postponement of the hiring of the chief. And the second is what to do about an investigation. So with respect to the first, like everyone, I fully support a letter to the council that recommends postponement. I do think it should be a simple letter that just simply says, given the allegations that have been stated and, you know, whatever, you know, paper referral or in the ones that we have in our packet that we recommend a postponement. I don't think we should sort of delve into any other questions that lead or any comments that lead to any sort of conclusions or make conclusions. I think it should just simply be that. The second issue is about investigations. I agree with everyone that we're clearly in oversight. That's part of our oversight responsibility. I do think there are going to be two separate investigations here, and I think, you know, we should kind of stay in our lane. And when I say there are going to be two investigations, there's going to be the city manager's investigation that's within the city. I sort of think they should do whatever they believe is appropriate. And then secondly is our investigation. I don't think we should, you know, those things are tied up. The way the city charter is set up, there are two investigations done. That's often the case whenever we are doing our own investigation into misconduct. The police department is doing its own internal affairs investigation. It just so happens here that the city manager believes that that should be done by outside counsel. So they should do that, but we should operate independently of that. And we are independent of the city manager's office. So the question for me is one that I actually have for the city attorney, which is trying to understand, you know, sort of what our power is to initiate the investigation and under what section of the charter we would be proceeding, as well as the interim regulations, because depending on how we proceed, it triggers different procedures. And I'm not sure this is something that has to be decided right this moment, because the thing that's really time sensitive is the letter to the city council. This, we want to make sure we proceed, but we want to make sure we do it correctly. So under the city charter, the question for me is there's the section 125 and then subsections 17, 18, and 19. 17 is policy review. 18 is complaints filed with the DPA by a member of the public. So that's the director of police accountability, because anybody's listening. But that, if you recall, under our interim regulations, has to be someone who was an eyewitness or a victim of the conduct. So I'm not sure whether we've actually had this former officer actually file a complaint. But you know, hey, I'd welcome him filing a complaint if it gets back to him so we can investigate this. But we do need to have, I believe, an eyewitness or a victim to actually file the complaint for us to initiate something under the subsection 18, I think. And then the third one is one that we don't do very often, which is 19, subsection 19, which is review of complaints filed with the Berkeley Police Department. Mm-hmm. And that, you know, seems to suggest that if a complaint has been filed with the Berkeley Police Department, that we can initiate an investigation. So, I mean, for me, the important thing is to make sure that we're proceeding under, you know, the right section or right combination of sections, and that we're establishing procedures accordingly, and that we're not getting out over our skis. I do believe if it's a policy review, for example, it would make sense to set up a subcommittee and you could have a member of the public participate on that. Obviously, they wouldn't be able to see confidential information, but that might make sense. So, you know, that's, you know, my thought is that we do need to move forward with an investigation. I think everyone agrees on that, but I'm not sure whether we know exactly, you know, under what section we would be proceeding. And I would ask the city attorney whether you know, what our limitations on us are for initiating an investigation in this area, and under which one of those sections she believes that we could proceed.
So we will take that information and bring you back a memo. We would have to analyze, obviously, the different sections and give you a path forward. And that will take a little bit of time. We will do it as quickly as possible, given the sensitivity and the urgency of this matter. That's why I wanted to attend personally and hear the discussions and be able to go back to my staff and
Yeah. Can I
provide
ask you,
information.
can I ask you, not being but can I ask you, what do you think a good timeline would be for you to get back to us on a memo?
I think we'll do it as soon as possible. It's our highest priority right now. So
I mean, our next meeting is in December. I mean, at least regularly scheduled meeting. You
mhm.
anticipate that I mean, what's the recommended time? I mean, I understand it's as soon as possible, but what do you think is a reasonable amount of time, even if you're being conservative?
I think probably a few weeks at a minimum, because the good thing is we have been doing a lot of due diligence and looking at the parameters of PAB's authority already. So we have a good baseline, and we've developed information on a memo that we shared with you. But we do need to, this is new information that we're all getting. So we really want to do our due diligence and give you something that withstands scrutiny. So a few weeks, I think, is what we need.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, that, I mean, I understand, needing time to research it. I understand. It's good to hear that, this is your highest priority. I tend to, think that we would want to move quickly on this. I mean, and maybe that would change if they delay the investigation, or excuse me, the confirmation of the police chief. But regardless, this is of high interest and something that seems to require immediate attention. And I, for one, not sure I'd want to, wait much past our next scheduled meeting to at least start to initiate an investigation. I mean, a few weeks could be anywhere from 3 to 8 weeks. And I don't know, I feel like 8 weeks would put us into next year. That seems inappropriate. Whereas, 3 weeks before our next meeting, maybe that seems appropriate. But I hope that all efforts would be made to get us the advice by then. Otherwise, I think we've got a bunch of lawyers. We might just look at the charter and move forward as we see appropriate.
Understood, and we will try to expedite it and bring you something as soon as possible on the lower end of the spectrum of the 3 weeks or so, not the 8 weeks that you mentioned.
Mhm.
And can you remind me when the next PAB meeting is?
I'll let the chair.
And I'm gonna move to the director, and can you?
I know it's in December. It's the second Wednesday of December. So I think it's the 8th, but I'm not sure.
December 8th, okay.
Whenever the second Wednesday of December is.
December 7th.
Well, maybe not the second, the first, sorry.
Yeah.
The first, it's an unusual schedule because of the holidays.
Right.
Okay.
Board Member Mizell?
Well, I was under the impression we'd have one more meeting before December, but if this is my last meeting, I might as well go ahead until I need to say that. I don't believe at all that we need to wait for additional analysis as to whether we can exercise our powers under the charter. It's pretty clear. I believe it is clear that in terms of the subpoena power, in terms of the ability at least to request and use the subpoena power, we can do that today. I don't believe we need another opinion. Now, again, I welcome this email. I'll be clear. I welcome the opinion once we get it. I do. But I just, given what we've already learned about the charter, given the broad purview we have in terms of that particular power, at least my understanding of that particular power, I don't think we need to delay for several weeks before we at least request that documents are preserved in relations to these allegations and potentially request a subpoena is issued. I think that's a given one of our duties is to advise and make recommendations on policies, practices, and procedures of the department. This clearly implicates policy, practices, and procedures of the department, several policies, practices, and procedures of the department. And that is something we can use subpoena power for. That is something we can request records for. This is not a disciplinary investigation. This is not something that would subject an officer, as far as my knowledge, to any sort of discipline. So that those are not parameters we're looking at for this type of investigation. If a complaint comes to us, that is now becomes a separate investigation with separate rules, which obviously have to follow and protect officer rights there. But in terms of whether we should be looking at the totality of where these allegations lead and ensuring that evidence is preserved, I think we need to do that today. At least vote for, and I'll make a motion for the subpoena. And if that doesn't pass, okay, I will make a motion that we request documents are preserved. If that doesn't pass, okay, but I'm going to make the motion because ultimately those are powers we have today. We have seen so many opinions, and I believe it is quite clear under those powers, one of our duties and functions is to look into policies and make recommendations. And one of the ways you do that is by looking into the department. It just so happens in this case, we're getting obviously very serious allegations that allege obviously very serious and disturbing conduct. But if this was something else, if we wanted to learn about, I don't know, the trends in terms of different beats and how stops go in different beats, we could request the department today, in theory, gives us a beat schedule for different officers and look into the data in terms of different arrests of officers. And if they said no, we could subpoena for that information and get that information. And then we could have an investigation. We could make a presentation around what we learned about the beat structures and how officers make stops. And that would be, as far as I understand the charter, completely fine and legal, because that is one of our duties to make that type of determinations, to make those type of recommendations, to make those type of findings. And I just want to be very clear, I do not believe we needed another opinion for us to act at least and issuing a subpoena or requesting the documents are preserved. I want that to be very clear to the public. That is not my belief. And we have sat through a lot of different opinions because we needed them. I want to be clear. They were important. This board is brand new. I understand that. But I don't think we need another opinion to take some action on that today.
Okay. Board Member Owens.
I think that I agree with board member or Vice Chair Mizell. I think that we can request documents. I'm not sure if we need a subpoena. I was actually trying to thumb through the charter. But there's clearly a section in the charter that says that the board has access to any and all records from any city department. So I'm not sure if it's necessary that we need a subpoena to get any records or documents that we need. And I also agree that we can at least start this process as a policy issue, which we can look into, practices, policies, or whatever related to the information that we received so far. And then based on the information we get back from the city attorney's office, maybe we take a different route, when it comes to any other investigation that we do. But I do agree that I think we can't start requesting records from whatever relevant city department that we need at this point. I don't think we need to wait.
Board Member Ramsey.
Yeah, just a couple of comments on that. And I think this is in line with Board Member Levine was saying. First of all, two things. Issue a subpoena. First of all, you have to draft one. And so even specifically what you're going to ask for, we're not in a position to do that today. So that's just not realistic. Second of all, a request for documents. I do agree with Board Member Owens that you probably don't even have to issue a subpoena to that if there's an active investigation. I was just saying we should I think everyone agrees that there should be an investigation. We just want to make sure that we're in a position that when it initiates, it's initiated under a provision that's supportable. We don't want to end up in this situation like we did with the homeless man who died outside the back of the police where we start one investigation, it's under the wrong provision, and then all of a sudden we're stuck in the middle and we have to go back and restart a policy review. So I'm fine if we just want to start a policy review now. If someone wants to start a policy review, then I think we should take the appropriate steps with that, which is form a subcommittee and let a subcommittee have somebody in the public, and then they figure out what sort of what the nature of the investigation is going to be, what their investigation strategy is going to be, how a request for documents falls within that, a subpoena request falls within that. And then they formulate that and then they come to the board and we approve that request and we issue it. But again, I think this should be done in a, an organized way. And that, and that's going to require that we understand what section we're moving under and what the procedural requirements are for that. And so if people want to move as a policy review, I'm fine with that. And someone can make a motion for a policy review, and I'd recommend we start a subcommittee, which can meet a lot more frequently and not be bound by all the Brown Act requirements that we as a board are. So that's what I would recommend.
Thank you, Board Member Ramsey. Vice Chair Mizell, I'm gonna let you finish the floor. I'm gonna have a few comments and then I'm gonna ask you guys to make some motions and see if we can land this plane. Board Member Mizell.
Yes, and I do appreciate your comments, Commissioner Ramsey. I would say, for one, I've been talking about the subpoena power for like first meeting, second meeting we had of this board. I would have loved to have been trained in the last year and a half on how to write subpoenas. If I was, I would have written one. We've had no training, no form. It still doesn't exist. So I agree with you, but the problem is it never existed. So the only way to do it, to my knowledge, would be to vote to issue one and then have one written and then have it submitted. But obviously we don't have that, but we haven't had the training. We don't have the form. We are getting more answers just now as to a few purview. So I would say that first. Secondly, I do agree with you. I think policy review would probably be one of the best paths to go. I don't oppose at all a subcommittee. I think that is probably the quickest way for us to work through, the details of this issue, which there are going to be lots of. So I agree with that. I would say today I am going to make a motion at minimum that we request the preservation of all records related to this from the police department, city manager's office, any other applicable departments that may have records related to this matter. I want that to be formal from this board today. I do not want there to be any question about whether this is something that is going to be investigated, and to any question as to whether those records need to be preserved. I know the city has various different retention schedules. Likely there's already records, based off the timeline that are already gone forever. And records are going to be probably getting deleted. And I don't mean like and I want to be clear, when I say deleted, I mean based off the retention schedules, not based off of someone, doing anything nefarious. So if we can make that motion today, I will support the policy review. And I think we can go forward from there.
Excellent. So what I'd like to do right now is first, if we could go ahead and get consensus, I believe we have it on the letter. If someone can make a motion on a letter from the chair and vice chair to the council with recommendations for this evening, that would be great. The floor is open.
I'll make the motion that the board through the chair and the vice chair, or the chair, draft up a real brief letter that the board recommends that there's a postponement of the confirmation of the new chief.
I second it.
Can we get a roll call vote, please?
You're muted, Ms. Thomas.
Yes, I know. Okay, so let's go through the vote. Sorry. Okay. Board Member Ramsey, your vote?
Yes.
And Chair Moore?
Yes.
Okay. And Member Owens?
Yes.
Okay. Member Lefwich?
Yes.
Member Levine?
Yes.
Member Mizell, Vice Chair Mizell?
Yes.
And Member Calavita?
Yes.
Okay, so that's unanimous then.
That passes unanimously. I'll draft a letter and send it through the office post haste. Now, if we can bring it, Board Member Levine.
Well, isn't this going to be decided today? Don't we have to get it out?
Yes.
Immediately? Okay, just so that's clear.
Post haste is as soon as I get off this.
Thank you.
Okay. So that brings us to our investigative protocols and procedures, where we want to go next. I'm going to open up the floor for motions. Board Member Levine?
Yes, I move that we initiate a policy review and create a subcommittee to immediately begin that policy review investigation.
I'll second that.
Can we get a roll call one more time, Investigator Thomas?
Can I ask one question? Do we have any, and again, I know it's difficult, but maybe generally policies related to, what areas that we're reviewing, so it's clear.
You say policy 401 and other applicable policies.
401 is the fair and impartial policing general one, right? Nathan?
Yes, that's probably the most broadly applicable.
Is that going to be part of your
That,
motion?
that can be part of the motion. Yes.
Okay.
Director Aguilar, I see your hands up. Did you want to jump in?
Yeah, if I may, and maybe you don't want to be too prescriptive in your motion in terms of what you're investigating. You might want to focus on the incidents that have been made before the public, and we can discuss with a subcommittee, or I can provide some staff support to lay out an investigative plan that will look at specifically based on all the evidence that's been made public to this date, what policies you want to look at a little bit more thoroughly. That's just a suggestion. Feel free to take it or leave it.
Thank you.
Can I just say that it seems like once that's done, it should come back to the full board so that we can affirm that.
Okay.
So do we want to vote on that?
Board Member Owens?
Can I just make a recommendation that we leave, that we say, what was it, policy 401 and any other policy that's applicable to, just so we can get moving on this. I mean, clearly the public is concerned. We as a board are concerned. It sounds like city staff is concerned. Sounds like the mayor and council is concerned. So I think that just to get this thing going, I'd say we say policy 401 in any applicable policy, and we move on with a subcommittee.
Yes.
Excellent. Do I have a second on that friendly addendum?
I second the friendly amendment.
There we go. Okay. Can we get a draft language for that for the office? Can somebody concisely put that together?
So I'm saying that your motion is to initiate a policy review, including policy 401 and any other applicable policies, and create a subcommittee. That's your motion, right?
Sounds good.
I have a point of information, and that is, suppose this individual who put forward these allegations, suppose he were to want to make a complaint of alleged misconduct to us. I assume he's a member of the public, and he's a precipient witness. Would such a thing interfere or conflict with a policy review on the same matters?
I don't think there's any reason to think that it needs to be one or the other, but I don't think
Am I
we've ever
correct
dealt with
that
it.
he is now a member of the public and could file a complaint of alleged misconduct, correct? Under the interim regs.
If that question is to me, that's what I would interpret, yes.
Yeah, it seems like, yeah, okay.
Okay.
As long as we can have these two, I mean, I don't know what he would intend to do, but as long as it's possible to have parallel investigations of that sort.
If not, we could always dismiss the policy complaint if we found that that was
That's
preferable.
true.
So we have a motion and a second.
Okay, you ready to vote?
Ready to vote. Let's go ahead.
Okay, let's start with Board Member Owens
Yes.
and Chair Moore
Yes.
and Board Member Ramsey,
Yes.
Board Member Lefwich,
Yes.
and Board Member Levine,
Yes.
and Vice Chair Mizell.
Yes.
And Board Member Calavita.
Yes.
Okay, so that's unanimous then.
Excellent.
I'm not sure whether we have time, but can you ask for volunteers for the subcommittee and then we could agendize it for the next meeting to appoint them and to allow members of the public to request to be a member of the subcommittee, depending on how many members of the board there are.
Yes. Why don't, we already have a motion to create the subcommittee, so can I just ask if there's any volunteers from the board to serve on this subcommittee? Board Member Owens.
I'm in kind of an awkward position, Chair.
I understand. It's a tightrope you're on right now. But
I'll volunteer.
Board Member Calavita, thank you. Do we have anyone else?
We need 3.
I did a different motion.
I know. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna get this subcommittee together and I'm gonna come right to you, Vice Chair.
I mean, if I'll be the third person over the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
No,
I've got
I
it.
don't think
I'll do
so.
it. Sign me up.
Good.
All right. Vice Chair, you have the floor. You have motions you'd like us to consider?
Yes, thank you. I want to just make a motion to formally request for any records, and to be clear, the broadest definition of records related to the downtown task force, bike force, any other records that pertain during the timeline we currently have, or I'll take suggestions too, Board Ramsey, related to the incidents or the alleged incidents and alleged conduct. Board Ramsey, do you have a suggestion?
My only is one, it's actually a question of the city attorney, and that's whether there's already a preservation order in place. I mean, seems like their letter, fine, but I'm wondering if there's a preservation order in place already.
It's a really good point that you're raising, and we are actually working on exactly that today. I wouldn't call it a preservation order, but basically a letter goes out to, like, a litigation hold that preserves all records.
Mhm.
Okay, well, given that that doesn't yet exist, I will make that motion that the board formally request the preservation of all records, any way applicable or related to the allegations arising from downtown task force, the Berkeley bike unit, and or any of the officers a part of the bike unit or otherwise mentioned in the alleged text messages.
Yeah, I think you should make the request to the city manager for all, the city manager for all city employees. And then I'd also CC the chief of police so that all sworn officers are notified of the request as well.
I agree. We don't want it to be too narrow.
No, I fully agree. We can definitely add that.
Yeah. Is that a motion?
Yes.
Do we
I
have a
second.
second? Excellent. One more time with the roll call vote.
I'm sorry, who second?
I did.
Board Member
Calavita.
Calavita.
All right. So let's start with Vice Chair Mizell.
Yes.
Yes. And Board Member Lethbridge
Yes.
and Board Member Levine
Yes.
and Board Member Owens
Yes.
and Board Member Ramsey,
Yes.
Board Member Calavita,
Yes.
and Chair Moore.
Yes.
So that's again unanimous.
Board Member Owens.
Can I make a motion that we also include in our letter that we fully support independent third-party investigation of this potential alleged incidents?
Is there a second on the floor?
I'm sorry, Durham, does that include the caveat that we support it and would strongly urge the council to be the one to oversee the investigation, not the city manager's office?
That would be my preference, but I wasn't sure if the board wanted to go that far, but that would be what I would recommend, is that third-party investigation would be handled by the mayor and council.
then I will bring a friendly amendment that we add, I think your idea is that it be managed by the city council itself. If you're amenable to that, a friendly amendment.
I'm not sure who was seconding it. I mean, can we keep these as separate motions? I'd like to vote on them separately because my thought is, we're separate from the city manager and let the city manager and council do what they're going to do. I mean, I hope they do what you're saying, but I'd like to focus on our lane, which is doing our investigation and doing it correctly. Just like I wouldn't want them to come in and start advising us on what to do with our investigation.
I would also like to make it clear in this, if we're going to support that independent investigation, that we will continue with our investigation, because I can foresee a scenario in which we're told the investigation is ongoing and you're not it. All right.
Definitely.
So when we say we support the third-party independent investigation, that is not in lieu of our investigation.
Right. In addition to our investigation.
I think it's cleaner to leave it out. I agree with Board Member Ramsey to say just that we support the postponement of the confirmation so that we can proceed with our policy investigation as mandated by the charter amendment. And they're going to do what they're going to do. And I think it's cleaner to come on strongly and clearly about what we're going to do.
All right. I think I agree with that, actually.
I do agree.
Where does the motion stand now? Where is our language?
I withdraw my motion.
Okay.
I don't think there's a motion on the floor. I'd move to adjourn.
We have to have public comment.
Oh, do we have? I'm not sure what they have done the agenda. I'm sorry.
It's not a problem.
I wanted to, and I know we could previously make this motion at a different time, but I wanted to just make a motion. I guess would this have to be a separate letter? I guess maybe this is a motion for the board. I mean, I just want to ensure, and again, I don't know if this looks like it might be my last meeting. I don't know, but that we ensure the greatest ability for the public to access the information of these investigations. I understand invariably some of the information is going to be confidential. I understand how these things work, but I just want, would I make a motion or not? I just want to make sure I say that. I think many members of the public are going to want to see the evidence and the facts behind this. I think it would be, unfortunate if for some reason that became constrained by some legal parameter that, we may unintentionally run into. So just that we proceed in a way that ensures public access to the widest amount of information. So I will make the motion, but I'll just say that as we go forward.
So are there no longer any motions on the table?
No, not.
Excellent. I'm gonna take us to our next agenda item, which is public comment. If there's anyone that would like to speak.
And I apologize. I'm going to have to step off. I would like to hear what people have to say, but it's 3:30.
Understand, and thank you for your service, Board Member Ramsey, and I appreciate everyone coming out so quick notice on a special meeting. Thank you all.
I will look at the reporting though. Thank you.
Okay, are we ready, Investigator Thomas?
Mr. Chair, I could proceed with facilitation of that.
Thanks.
Okay, Reigns, which I believe was Ms. Betsy Morris, you're on with the board.
Thank you very much. I was listening as well as I could, and I actually heard a motion offered up twice by Nathan Mizell. And the second time, then it got interrupted with an amendment, which was then withdrawn. So I know I can't meddle in your business, but I encourage Nathan to continue that motion. I thought there was a second, but I may be confused about that. But there was an amendment before it was clear who was seconding it, is what I heard. So as a member, as a part of your fan club, I think it's important that you step out on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Kate. You're on with the board.
I'm another member of your fan club, and I really just want to thank you for your good and careful work today. Thank you.
Thank you. Next member of the public is Elena. You're on with the board.
Hey, you all, it's Ilana Auerbach, and I too just want to deep bow of gratitude to your service to the community, to bringing this forward, to everyone getting on this call in, less than 24 hours notice, and just continuing the good work. Really, really bow to you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Auerbach. Next speaker is JS. You're on with the board.
I also want to be a person who tells you how much I appreciate each of you and am very grateful. And I feel it's really important that the city attorney follow up on preserving any and all documents and evidence that may be related to this case. That's vital. I also wonder, and this may be a little off, why the PAB has not received the training in how to write a subpoena. Is that something the city attorney can do, or her staff people? And I would advocate that that happen as soon as possible. And thank you all for everything that you do.
Thank you. Next speaker is Jonah. You're on with the board.
Thank you all. I think the best way I can thank you guys is keep my comment as brief as possible so that Chair Moore can go make his flight. But I just wanted to reiterate what the first speaker said about the motion that was seemingly left on the table about the request to preserve all the records related to this. And I hope that that is able to happen. Thank you all so much. Have a good one.
Yeah, just for public comment, yeah, I believe we passed the motion to preserve.
Yeah, we did.
I believe it related to my earlier motion to the subpoena, which, yes, that should be cleaned up immediately. I think it's ridiculous we're at this point, and yeah, there's no form, and I don't believe in any training, but and to be clear, that's not on staff. Okay, that is, I'm very clear. This has been an arduous process over 1.5 years to get this board this far. We've got a lot of folks who just came on and have done a lot of great work. It's just, that's a long ongoing issue.
Thank you, Eugene. You're on next with the board.
Hi, I'm Gene Turret. I just want to urge you all to remember that you're representing us, that it's the community for whom you are doing this. And that I believe that a full public call should be put out into the community for information of behavior of the police in these situations. Certainly the people who have been affected by this, if they have the courage to speak up, should be enabled to do this by the accountability board, because you are supposed to be holding the police department accountable to the community, not just to you, but to the community as a whole. So that it should be made clear to the community that you are seeking out the information so that you can adequately speak for them. Thank you.
Thank you. CHN host, you're on with the board.
Yes, hello, this is Makai Freeman. I'm very glad to see that both law measures were unanimously supported. We have to make this reputation and values come in to actual reality and not have this treatment and racist classist actions against our citizens, and people should be held accountable Thank you for doing your job. Thank you for your service. And I truly hope that information and records will be made public to the community who deserve to know and have transparent, fact-finding actions. Thank you.
Thank you. Russ, you're on next with the board.
Thank you very much. I want you all to remember you have a large segment of an activist community enabling you to stand tall, and we'll be standing tall with you on this. As long as you're going to be making requests for subpoenas, maybe you ought to suggest between the BPD and the Downtown Berkeley Association, the business group, that the Berkeley bike cops and everything were kissing their ass, and the mutual ass kissing going on there. And also look into Operation Squeaky Wheel, which was I heard this at a meeting with house people that were helping the police target unhoused people along Shattuck Avenue. So request information on Operation Squeaky Wheel as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jessica, you're on with the panel. You're on with the board.
Yes. Yes, and I also wanted just to additionally add to encourage to look at the role of the police department and the homeless response team, which is actually comprises of like 2 to 3 police officers, 1 outreach worker and 1 social worker, who actually go out to enforce the sidewalk ordinance weekly. And I think it has to be looked at how like they're using police force to basically, like I said, like make people give up their belongings or get arrested. And often they get arrested and there's no charges pressed, and they are held for a couple of days. Last time my neighbor was held for 3 days and there was no charges. So I think it's important to also look at like the role of the police in the homeless response team and the monthly operations where they do large sweeps. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You have no other speakers left.
Thank you. The chair asked me to step in for the last minutes here. On the agenda, there's no more. There's no other items after public comment, correct, Director? Or
The adjournment is the last item.
Okay. I guess, can I ask? So we don't have any meetings scheduled for November currently.
So we're in the process of finding out the hearing meeting and also the meeting for the regulations. So we're just finalizing the exact dates on that, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible on that.
Okay, I would love if the regulations vote is in November. I would just say that if that's something that, you know, the board, other members, obviously we need members to be at the meeting can accommodate. Well, okay, I'll let us do the one to meet our equivalent for that. Okay, in that case,
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second,
are there any objections?
no.
Sorry, Director.
Just to inform you, there was a hand raised. I'm not sure when it came up from the public, but just informing you.
We don't know when it came up.
I believe it came after we closed the public comment section.
Okay, let's take the hand if that's okay, folks, just in case it was before and we're not violating something.
Hi, this is Cheryl Davila. Thank you for taking my raised hand. I'm in my car driving, but felt it was important for me to speak. This is really, it's kind of shocking, but not really, because we know that Berkeley PD has had issues with racial profiling and these sorts of things. And this is just another reason why we need a police accountability board and have it be strong and answer to the community and abide by what the community supports. And, you know, this is a time for change, and we can't allow our police department to continue this racist, classist behavior anymore. You know, I mean, it's like so pathetic. So thank you for taking my comments, and I'm looking forward and praying for a better tomorrow and a strong accountability board that's really going to hold BPD responsible for all the actions and misbehavior that they are demonstrating currently. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Chair, just a JS was had the hand raised, and I had lowered it because I thought they had already spoken, but JS, you're on with the board. Last commenter.
I don't know why the raised hand came up. I have no further comments. Thank you.
Thank you. All
Thank
right,
you.
that's all public comment.
Okay, we had the motion, I think we had the second, so motion to adjourn. Are there any objections to adjournment? Seeing and hearing none, the meeting is over. Okay, thank you everyone for coming. Thank you to all the public for
Thank
attending,
you all.
and
Thank you.
we will get working.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.